What if the most damaging thing ever said in an exam room is only 4 words long? Not a misdiagnosis, not a missed tumor, not a botched surgery, just 4 words, and doctors say them every single day to people just like you in offices all across this country. Your cartilage is gone. I want to tell you about Frank. Frank is 71 years old. He ran his first marathon at 34, his last one at 58. For decades, his knees were the most reliable thing about him. Then quietly, they weren't. He started feeling stiffness in the mornings. Not the kind that goes away after coffee, but the kind that follows you down the hallway and reminds you it's still there at noon. By the time he came to see me, he'd already been to 2 other doctors. Both of them had looked at his x-rays, pointed at the narrowed joint space, and said some version of the same thing. There's nothing left to work with. Come back when you're ready for a replacement. Frank sat across from me and said, "So that's it? I just wait until it gets bad enough?" I told him, not necessarily. Because here is what those 4 words, your cartilage is gone, leave out entirely. They leave out the biology that is still happening inside that joint right now, whether your doctor mentions it or not. They leave out the research that has been quietly rewriting what we thought we knew about cartilage and aging. And they leave out a study published in late 2025 out of Stanford Medicine that has a lot of people in my field paying very close attention. That is what we are going to talk about today. Not false hope, not miracle cures, just the truth, which it turns out is more interesting than what most people have been told. To understand why that Stanford study matters, you need to understand what cartilage actually is and why your body has such a hard time fixing it on its own. Most people think of cartilage as a cushion, a pad, like the sole of a shoe between 2 bones. And yes, it does that, but that is the least interesting thing about it. Cartilage is living tissue. It is made up of specialized cells called chondrocytes, and those cells are constantly working, maintaining the structure around them, responding to load and movement, doing quiet repairs on a microscopic level every single day. The problem is, cartilage has almost no blood supply, and without blood flow, it heals the way a town heals without roads, slowly, inefficiently, sometimes not at all. Think of it this way. When you cut your skin, blood rushes in within seconds. Clotting factors arrive, immune cells follow, the whole repair crew shows up. Your skin is healed in days. When cartilage is damaged, that crew never gets the call. The chondrocytes try, but they are working alone in the dark without backup. And here is where the real trouble starts, because damaged cartilage does not just sit quietly and wait. When tiny fragments of broken cartilage break loose inside your joint, they drift into the synovium, the soft tissue lining that wraps around the entire joint space. And when the synovium encounters those fragments, it does what your immune system always does when it finds something that doesn't belong. It attacks. Inflammatory molecules flood the joint. Interleukins, prostaglandins, signaling chemicals that were designed to fight infection, now turned loose inside your knee with nothing to fight except your own tissue. The joint swells. The pain ramps up. The stiffness deepens. And over time, that inflammatory environment does not just respond to damage, it creates more of it. That is why 2 people can have identical x-rays and one barely notices their arthritis, while the other feels like their knee is on fire by 10 in the morning. The x-ray shows the damage, it does not show the fire, and that distinction between the structural damage and the inflammatory environment is exactly what makes the new research so important. Now let's talk about what medicine has actually been offering people like Frank for the past 30 years. Because I want to be fair here, we have not been doing nothing. There are treatments that genuinely help. There are also treatments that get oversold, and the difference matters enormously, especially if you have been bouncing between options, wondering why nothing is sticking. The first line of treatment for osteoarthritis is still non-surgical. That means anti-inflammatory medications, structured exercise, weight management, and in selected cases, joint injections. And for many people, that combination, done consistently and correctly, makes a real difference. But let's be honest about the medications first. Anti-inflammatory drugs, the NSAIDs, the ibuprofen family, can absolutely help with pain in the short term. I have recommended them myself, carefully. But they are not neutral. Used regularly over months, they can irritate the stomach lining, affect kidney function, raise blood pressure, and interact with other medications many people over 60 are already taking. They are a tool, not a long-term solution. Then there are corticosteroid injections, a shot of cortisone directly into the joint. And yes, for the right patient, at the right moment, they can provide dramatic relief. I have seen patients walk out of my office after years of pain feeling like a different person. That is real. But here's what does not always get said clearly enough. Research from Harvard and several peer-reviewed journals has raised a serious concern that repeated corticosteroid injections may actually accelerate cartilage loss over time. Not in every patient, not after one injection, but the pattern is there in the data, and it is something every patient deserves to know before they say yes to injection number 4 or 5. Hyaluronic acid injections came next, the idea being that you could supplement the joint's natural lubricating fluid. For some patients, especially those with mild to moderate disease, there is evidence of modest symptom relief. But here's the pattern I see in my practice. A patient gets one injection, feels better, comes back 6 months later for another, and over time the injection becomes the whole plan, instead of one part of a larger strategy. The pain is quieter, the underlying problem is not addressed, and nothing actually changes. Platelet-rich plasma, PRP, has earned more serious attention recently, particularly in international orthopedic guidelines for selected patients with knee osteoarthritis. It may help reduce inflammation and improve symptoms in some cases. But let me be direct. PRP is not a cartilage regenerator. The evidence does not support that claim. It is a promising option for certain people in certain stages of disease, and it should be described honestly, not sold as a reversal of arthritis. The through line in all of this is the same. These treatments can reduce pain, they can buy time, they can improve your quality of life, but none of them, not one, has been able to push genuinely damaged cartilage back toward regrowth, until a group of researchers at Stanford asked a different question entirely. In late 2025, scientists at Stanford Medicine published research that quietly circulated through orthopedic and rheumatology circles and made a lot of people stop and read it twice. They were studying an enzyme. Its name is 15-PGDH, and you do not need to remember that. What you need to understand is what it does. This enzyme appears to be involved in suppressing the body's natural cartilage repair processes as we age. Think of it as a brake, a biological brake that gets applied more and more firmly as the decades go by, gradually slowing down the cellular machinery that would otherwise be working to maintain and repair cartilage tissue. What the Stanford team found was this. When they blocked that enzyme in aged and injured mice, the cartilage showed measurable signs of regeneration, not just slowed degeneration, actual repair activity. And the animals also showed reduced osteoarthritis-related pain. Now, I need to be careful here, and so do you. This was a mouse study. It has not yet been tested in humans. We do not know whether blocking this enzyme in a person produces the same result, whether it is safe over time, or what the optimal delivery method would be. There is a long road between a promising result in a laboratory and a treatment you can ask for at your doctor's office. But here is why it matters anyway. For decades, the dominant assumption in orthopedics was this: adult cartilage cannot meaningfully regenerate. Full stop. That assumption shaped how doctors talked to patients, how treatment goals were framed, and how aggressively anyone pursued regenerative research. If you assume something is impossible, you stop looking for ways to make it possible. What this Stanford study suggests, carefully, with appropriate uncertainty, is that the biology of cartilage repair may not be as fixed as we thought, that there may be specific molecular pathways that could be targeted to coax aging cartilage back toward repair, that the brake exists, and that it can, at least in mice, be released. Doctors at the Mayo Clinic and researchers at the NIH have both noted in recent years that cartilage biology is a faster-moving field than most patients realize. This study fits into a larger pattern of findings, suggesting that the old certainty, cartilage is gone, it stays gone, deserves to be challenged. That does not mean your knee replacement is canceled. It does not mean one injection will fix 30 years of damage. It means that the next decade of arthritis medicine may look meaningfully different from the last 30. And for someone like Frank, or like you, that matters. So where does that leave you today? Right now, with the knee that woke you up at 3 this morning, or the hip that makes you think twice before taking the stairs? Here's the honest answer. The gap between a mouse study and your doctor's office is real. It could be 5 years, it could be 15. Science does not move on a schedule that respects your pain level, and I will not pretend otherwise. But what I can tell you is this. The patients who are in the best position when new treatments arrive are not the ones who stopped everything and waited. They are the ones who protected what they had. In Sardinia, in the mountainous interior of the island, there is a population of shepherds Men and women who live among the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. Researchers have studied them for decades, looking for the secret, and one of the things that consistently stands out is this. They never stopped moving, not dramatically, not in a gym. They walked up and down steep terrain, slowly, every day, into their 80s and beyond. Their joints were loaded, but loaded consistently with movement that maintained muscle, circulation, and the fluid exchange that keeps cartilage nourished. There is a lesson in that for you. Because one of the most counterproductive things I see in my practice is this. A patient gets a painful diagnosis, stops exercising because they are afraid of making it worse, and within 6 months, the joint has deteriorated faster than it would have if they had kept moving carefully. Muscles that support the joint weaken, the synovial fluid that nourishes cartilage stagnates. The inflammatory environment gets worse, not better. Movement is not the enemy. The wrong movement done recklessly can be, but for most people with osteoarthritis, appropriate, consistent, low-impact movement is one of the most powerful tools you have right now, today, without waiting for any new drug or injection. Weight matters too. A study out of Johns Hopkins found that every pound of body weight translates to roughly 4 pounds of force across the knee joint with each step. That is not a reason to feel guilty. That is a reason to understand the math and use it. Even a 10-pound reduction in body weight removes 40 pounds of force per step from that joint. That adds up across thousands of steps a day. And your diet, particularly the degree of systemic inflammation you are carrying, affects the joint environment directly. The same inflammatory pathways that the Stanford researchers were studying are influenced in real and measurable ways by what you eat and how much chronic stress your body is under. So here's what I want you to leave with today. 3 things. First, the science on cartilage regeneration is moving. What your doctor told you 5 years ago may already be incomplete. That does not mean you distrust your doctor. It means you stay curious, ask questions, and do not accept 4 words as a final answer. Second, the treatments available right now can genuinely help when they are used as part of a real strategy. Not as a shortcut, not as a substitute for the harder work. Movement, weight, inflammation, sleep, these are not soft suggestions. They are the architecture of joint health. Third, your joint is not a static thing waiting to be replaced. It is a living environment that responds to what you do and do not do every single day. The biology inside your knee right now is not fixed. It is in motion, and the research coming out of places like Stanford is beginning to show us that we may have more influence over that biology than anyone thought possible. Frank, by the way, did not need a knee replacement. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He changed how he was moving, changed what he was eating, worked with a physical therapist who understood osteoarthritis specifically, and made one targeted injection part of a larger plan, not a substitute for one. 2 years later, he is hiking again. Not marathons, but real trails, real mornings outside. That is not a miracle. That is what happens when someone stops waiting for a cure and starts managing a disease like an intelligent adult with good information, and you can do the same. If you are dealing with knee pain, hip pain, or a diagnosis you have been sitting with for years without a clear path forward, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is the one thing your doctor said about your arthritis that you wish had been explained differently? Because those conversations matter, and they deserve better answers than 4 words.